Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So we'll be picking up where we last left off in the book going over usool al-imaan or Durrat al-bayan fi usool al-imaan by Dr. Mohamed yousri, hafidhahullah. So in the last class we talked about some of the things that have to do with the levels of Iman. We talked about how there's three main levels of Iman. And the first of those levels was that bare minimum for Iman to be present, which is called the al-imaan, or like the foundation of Iman. And then we have the Iman that is wajib, that stops someone from entering the fire. And this is called al-imaan wal-mutlaq. And this is the person who's doing all of what is required of him to do. And he has that Iman that is obligatory for him to have. And then there's another Iman, which is a level above this. And all of these, they build off of that first level, that foundation. And then there's more, which is the obligatory. And then there's the building on top of that, which is the mustahab. Al-imaan al-kamil bi mustahabbat. And so, like, of course, this is the Iman that goes to the highest level. And of course, there's many levels to this, and it goes, it varies between individuals, depending on how many things they do, and of their taqwa, and all of the like wara, and having a lot of different things that they would be careful of falling into. And also the intention that one has. This definitely puts people at different levels. And so then we talked about, so these people, as long as they have the basis, and we talked about the foundation of Iman, which is the Iman that stops someone from an eternity in the hellfire. So this doesn't necessarily stop, like if someone's a sinner, but they still have this Iman, then they will not be left in the hellfire for eternity. But if they did a bunch of evil deeds and whatnot, they could be subject to punishment into the hellfire. If they didn't have that Iman that stops someone from entering the hellfire, which is this is the obligatory part. And so we'll talk about a little bit about this, because in this class, as we go in today, we'll talk about the one who commits major sins. So this will be talking about that person in a more specific sense. And also the other thing we talked about was the exception, or saying I'm a mu'min, inshallah. So this is, of course, like to say that you're a believer, inshallah. This is a masala that we talked just a little bit about it, and some of the things that have to do with about when someone says that they're a mu'min, and how they should be affirmed that they are a mu'min right now. But of course, in the future, they never know what Allah has decreed, so they don't want to give themselves that tazkiyah, or like that they're like claiming that they're of the people of Jannah in like a certain way, or claiming that they have done all of what is required of them. And so this is definitely something that al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah, they say it's permissible for someone to say inshallah when they say I'm a mu'min, for them to say inshallah after that, as long as this doesn't mean that they're uncertain, that this doesn't come from uncertainty from whether or not they actually are a mu'min right now, but rather it comes to they don't know the future. Of course, none of us know the future, and we would hope that we don't ever fall from that state of Iman in the future. And so, and also the ones who are firmly Muslims, or the ones that are firm in their faith with their Iman, from like the general population, or the unlearned general population of the Ummah, they're all Muslims. And so this is important for us to understand. And a lot of these issues that we'll talk about today, there have been groups that have gone on the right side and the left side of this, and they have and it creates a lot of fitna in the ummah when people fall away from understanding these basic things and essential things when it comes to Iman. So today we'll talk about the ruling of the one who commits major sins. And so the author, hafidhahullah, he says, al-mabhathu al-khamisu hukmu murtakibi al-kabirati. And so This is the ruling of the one, like murtakib means like the one who commits major sins, and a kabira is a major sin. And of course, the major sins are something that is there's in the Quran that Allah says وَالَّذِينَ يَجْتَنِبُونَ كَبَائِرَ, and so like that Allah calls certain things kaba'ir. So we understand that there are sins that are of the kaba'ir, which means like the big sins, or kabira is the one, and kaba'ir is the plural of that. And so and also Allah says in tajtanibu kaba'ira ma tunhauna anhu nukaffir ankum sayi'atikum. So like that if you just stay away from the kaba'ir of what you've been prohibited from, then Allah he'll keep you, then he will make that a kafara, that he'll get rid of the other sins other than that. Sayyatikum. And so like from the other sins, so the person who stays away from the kabira, and then, or the kaba'ir, which is the plural, then Allah will use this as a way to get rid of his other, like the other sins that aren't kaba'ir. And so of course sometimes like the word saghira, which is like the opposite in Arabic, you would say like kabira, and you would also say the opposite would be like saghira. This word doesn't necessarily come in the Sharia. And of course, like when we look at sins, we should look at like the one that we're disobeying, and we should never make a sin if it's not a major sin. Like some of the scholars, they would say that we don't call it a saghira. Like even if it's not a major sin, we don't use the word saghira, because this is like making light of sin in and of itself. And this is the area where some of the ulama, they have talked about that we don't say that there's big sins and little sins. We would say there are big sins and then there's sins, just like regular sins. And some have used the other word like saghair or saghira, and this is like an area of difference of opinion. And me personally, I rather not use the word saghira. Just looking at like the general reality of sin is that it's not something that's a light thing, even if it is not of the major sins. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And so the author here, when he goes and he talks about this, he's going to talk about what is the ruling of the person who does one of these major sins. And so he says, وَالْكَبَائِرُ مِنْ أُمُورِ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ وَهِيَ مِنْ قَوَادِحِ الْإِيمَانِ وَنَوَاقِصِهِ وَمُرْتَكِبُهَا فَاسِقٌ. And so he says the major sins are from the things of ignorance. And he says umur al-jahiliya. And usually this word jahiliya is a term that is used in the Sharia as a form of like pointing towards the time before Islam came. As before this time, this is a time of ignorance. And it was called jahiliya. And of course, like jahil is someone who's ignorant. And jahiliya is like connected to that. And so like the people that oftentimes in the Sharia will have this form, like this is from Jahiliyyah, and it will be referring to the things of ignorance that come from a state without having like from like a distance or a distancing from Islam and from the guidance of Islam. So if someone or something is distanced from the guidance of Islam, this would be of the umur jahiliyyah, from the matters of like this ignorance or jahiliyyah. And then he also says here, وَهِيَ مِنْ قَوَادِحِ الْإِيمَانِ وَنَوَاقِصِهِ. And he says, and they are from, like this is from قَوَادِحِ الْإِيمَانِ. And it's like something that they negatively affect Iman and decrease it as well. And so as we talked about, Iman increases with obedience, with ta'ah. With obedience, and it decreases with masiyah. And so like and it decreases with the disobedience. So of course, if it's a big form of disobedience, then this is going to have a major effect on the iman itself. And of course, someone who you could see this in like the life of people is if they start doing like major sins, or they start drinking and all these other things, this seriously affects the way that their iman is with Allah, and also in their salah and their other actions and whatnot. This is something that seriously takes away. Of course, someone who drinks, like their salah is not accepted for 40 days. And of course, it doesn't say that doesn't mean that they don't need to pray. They still pray, but they don't get the reward for that. And they leave the punishment for leaving the salah. By making the salah, they don't enter into that punishment. But this is something, of course, it takes away from like their reward, and it also takes away from something inside of them when it comes to their iman with Allah. And so this is a serious thing, and it decreases this, and it's something that it could cause somebody, if somebody is like very very heavily encompassed with these kaba'ir, then this is something that could cause them to fall into something greater than that, which is of course like kufr. And the people that are very constantly like they're surrounded by this, or say someone drinks, then it's very easy for them to say something that would take them outside of Islam while they're drunk, because they don't have that kind of awareness about them. Or and same thing with any other intoxicating substance or any of this sort. This is something that can very easily be a means that takes someone out. Or if somebody gets used to doing a lot of sins, then the shaitan, the next thing that he's going to do is try to push them right outside of Islam. And so it's a very dangerous place for someone to be in this state. It's a dangerous place, but of course this danger doesn't mean that, as we'll talk about, this doesn't mean that we take them outside of Islam because of the danger that they're in. Rather, we would warn them about this. And so the person that does that is a fasiq, and this is the term. So the person who does these major sins is a fasiq. And of course, a major sin is there's been different definitions about what exactly is a major sin, but some of the things that that would be considered a major sin is anything that is like has a specific punishment that is attached to this thing. Whether it's a punishment in the dunya, such as zina or sarika, like zina, like fornication and whatnot. This is a major sin, and there's a punishment that's set inside of the Sharia for this sin. And there's also like a punishment that's set for like someone stealing, and that is inside the Sharia as well. And also for someone to say that someone else committed zina, like this is also this slander is also, there's a punishment set in the dunya for this. And of course, so when there's a punishment set in the dunya, we know that this is a kabira. And also if there's a punishment set in the akhirah for something, or there's a severe warning that is attached to this thing, this is also of the signs that this is a kabira. Or of the other things that could be understood for this is if iman is negated for the person that does this certain thing, such as and also with like zina, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said la yu'minu zani wa huwa zani. And so wahuwa yazni. And so the Prophet ﷺ said that the zani, or the person who's doing zina, he says la yu'min. He takes away that iman. And of course this is the iman al-mutlaq, that his iman is gone while he's having zina. And of course he still has the basis of iman, but the iman that is obligatory for him to have is gone. And so this is of the types, or the ways that we could see that this is a kabira. And so other things, such as the punishments for someone who breaks off the ties of kinship. So if someone breaks off the ties of kinship, then this has a very serious punishment that is in the afterlife that is associated with it. And there's other sins that are like this as well, that have a serious punishment. And so if it has a serious punishment assigned to this, then this also it points to the seriousness of this sin. And so this is in general what a kabira itself is. And so the person that does this, if he does this, then he gets the name fasiq. And fasiq in fisk is where you would say the name of the action itself, and fasiq is the person that is described with that action. And this, in general, this word fisk or fasiq means leaving the obedience, of Allah. And of course, fasiq, linguistic it means kharij, or something that is left. He's gone out from under the obedience, and the meaning here is though he's left the obedience of Allah. And so this is a term that fasiq, it goes to the person who does these major sins. And he says here, وَفَاسِقُ أَهْلِ الْقِبْلَةِ لَا يَسْتَحِقُّ اسم الإيمان المطلق وإنما معه مطلق الإيمان. And so he says here that the fasiq from the Ahl al-Qibla, so like a fasiq from the people of the Qibla, doesn't deserve the name of al-imaan al-mutlaq. And this is that iman, that is that obligatory iman that someone is accomplishing. He doesn't deserve this name of iman al-mutlaq. He's just got the foundation of iman. So he's just got that bare minimum. He's still a Muslim, but he's got that iman and naqis, like that iman that doesn't quite make the it doesn't quite make the cut of what is required for him. Yes, he still has it, but it's not quite where it should be. And so this also, the word fasiq also has other meanings in the Sharia as well, such as like if someone's a fasiq, then their testimony is not accepted in the court of law. And also there's other rulings when it comes to this, like if he's going to be a witness for something, or if he's gonna have other things of discourse. If someone has this word like fasiq, or they are a fasiq, then this is something that there's other things that are connected to this as well. Of course, if you have like a drunkard that is coming to give testimony for something that he saw, this is something that his testimony would be rejected. Or if you have someone who deals or someone who is constantly like slandering people in their chastity, of course, like this is someone who's we're not going to take his word for anything in the court of law. And these are some of like the fiqh sides, the fiqh rulings of this type of person. But this is how when we look at it from like the Aqeedah form of view, we still say this person is a Muslim. He's just a bad Muslim, and this is of course this is the sad state, and we see a lot of these. But they still have the foundation of iman, which they still have that bare minimum where they are still they're still a Muslim, And so he says here, the next thing is وَأَئِمَّةُ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ عَلَى إِثْبَاتِ التَّبْعِيدِ فِي الْإِسْمِ وَالْحُكْمِ فيكون مع الرجل بعض الإيمان لا كله ويثبت له في حكم أهل الإيمان وثوابهم بحسب ما معه كما يثبت له من العقاب بحسب ما عليه. And so he says here that the Ahl al-Sunnah wal-Jamaa'ah, like the leaders of Ahl al-Sunnah wal-Jamaa'ah, they affirm that someone can have a part of a name, such as they have a part of a name and a ruling. So as a person has part of iman, so he can have the name part of, like he has iman in somewhat, he can have part of this, and not all of it. And he gets the ruling of the people of iman and the reward according to what he has for him, just as he is subject to punishment according to what is against him. And so this is a very important concept that he brings up here. And this is that when somebody has, if we were to say this person has that, as the Prophet ﷺ, occasionally he will say in a hadith, la yu'minu, la yu'minu, la yu'minu. And he says that this person he doesn't believe. And so this belief doesn't necessarily encompass all of his belief, but rather it can encompass part of it. And so this person that has a negation of part of his iman doesn't mean that all of his iman is gone. And so there are people who basically said it's all or nothing. Like iman, if it's ever negated, then it's all of iman that's negated, and if it's affirmed, then it's all of iman that's affirmed. And so like this is kind of an extreme where they wouldn't say that you can have some of iman and some of it is missing. And of course we talk about that foundation. If this is here, this is a Muslim. But if they don't have the name mu'min, does this mean that they're still Muslim? And this is where this issue is here in the Ahl al-Sunnah wal-Jamaa'ah. They say that yes, this person, even if he doesn't deserve the name al-mu'min, he can still get the name, of course he's still Muslim, and he still has that root or that foundation of iman that's with him, and he gets a reward according to what he has for him. So if he's done certain things that are good and that are deserving of reward, he gets that reward for it. And also, just as he's subject to punishment according to what is against him. And so with what he's done wrong and of these big sins and whatnot, he's subject to punishment. And so he's judged according to each one of these accordingly. And the next thing that he also talks about here, as he says, ولا يكفر أحد من أهل القبلة بذنب إلا إذا ارتكب ما ينقض الإيمان. So he says here, and it's a very important concept. He says, and no one disbelieves from the people of the Qibla by means of doing a sin, unless he committed a sin that completely destroys Iman. And so this is a very important point here, that the person, just by doing a sin, this doesn't mean that he has done something that takes him outside of Islam just by doing a sin, even if it's a big sin and whatnot, as long as this sin is not something that destroys Iman. So this sin, like such as someone, like if they were to worship a idol, or like curse Allah and His Messenger, or something of this sort. This is something that would be a major sin that takes them. It's a major sin, but it's not just a major sin. It's also something that takes them outside. It's more than that. It takes them outside and destroys their Iman from these things. And so no one from the people of the Qibla, which he means by this, like, this is a term like Ahlul Qibla, means it's a very general term. So if you say like a Muslim, yeah, this encompasses him. But also sometimes Ahlul Qibla will be used in referring to the most general forms of Muslim, because you have like Sunnis and you have Shia. So like when someone says Ahlul Qibla, this encompasses, for the most part, encompasses the whole group. And the whole group are the people that pray towards the Qibla. So of course, someone who prays Salah and prays towards the Qibla, and they say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So if they say, they testify with this, then they would be considered like Ahlul Qibla. And so he says, from the people of the Qibla, then no one disbelieves unless he committed a sin that destroys Iman. And this is, of course, of the first like bid'ah, or like that came up in when it comes to the way that people are dealt with. This is of the first of the bid'ah, and it came in here, that some of the, like, they're called the Khawarij. They basically came up against Ali radiallahu anhu, and they basically told him that you're doing something wrong, or like they're saying that you aren't ruling with what Allah has prescribed. And this was their misunderstanding. They didn't realize that he was ruling from a point of wisdom and in accordance to the Sharia, but they said he wasn't ruling according to the Sharia. So then they said after this that he basically was no longer a Muslim, and so they did takfir on him, and basically they took him outside of Islam because of something that he did. Because that's something that he did. And even if he did do what they said, is this thing something that destroys Iman or not? And this was an area of ijtihad at the very least. And so this is of the first and these people were called the Khawarij and whatnot. And in general, the Khawarij are they have a certain belief system that isn't necessarily coherent. It's not like you can say they have a foundation and they all build off of this certain foundation, and then anyone who ascribes this foundation is all from their like school of thought. But rather, the Khawarij are kind of they kind of follow, as many of the Ahlul Bid'ah, they follow their own desires. So if they saw a need, or they were upset about this certain person, then they would do takfir on him. And then after doing takfir on him, maybe this thing was for a major sin, maybe it was for a minor sin, maybe it was for a thing that isn't even a sin, but they thought it was a sin with their interpretation. But in general, the Khawarij would say that this is someone who does takfir on someone else for something that is with something that isn't mukaffir, like something that isn't something that would take that person out of Islam. He does takfir without a valid proof. And then he uses this takfir that he does on here to make his blood permissible, like to make this person like permissible to kill, and also his like wealth and whatnot to take. And so this is the general principle of, like, if you were to say who are the Khawarij, this is basically a general description for them. And of course, there's many versions of this, and we see some of this today. And we'll talk a little bit about this in the next chapter as well. But we'll find this with some people that will do takfir about things that are there. Yes, they may be sins, and maybe they're big sins, but they will do takfir, and they will make this person a disbeliever for something that isn't necessarily taking him outside of Islam. And also the wording that the author here he says is that the person he doesn't become a disbeliever by means of doing a sin, unless, he says here, unless he committed a sin that completely destroys Iman. This is a very good way that he put it here. And in a very famous book, At-Tahawiyah, in Aqeedah, the author here, he said, "Ma lam yastahil." And he mentioned that the person from al-Sunnah, he doesn't disbelieve by doing a sin as long as he doesn't do istihlal. And istihlal is making it permissible. And this is true, but like, this is also problematic in some ways, because this takes out, it means that if this person did something that is kufr, but he didn't think that it was, like if somebody did, like it could be understood from what he said, is if somebody did something that is kufr, but he knew that this was haram, and he didn't like try to make it permissible, then he would still be a Muslim. And this is incorrect. If someone who does kufr, and they know it, of course they know it's wrong, they know what they're doing is wrong, then this person leaves Islam with the kufr that they did. And as opposed to and like istihlal is a form of kufr, because someone who is doing istihlal, which means that they're making something permissible that they know is haram in the deen, or they know that Allah and His Messenger made this thing haram, and then they try to make it permissible. This is something that is a form of kufr, because you're basically saying that the deen that Allah and His Messenger came with is no longer correct, and this thing that I make permissible for me is like making it permissible is a different thing than falling into it and knowing that it's impermissible. So of course the person who makes something permissible, even if he doesn't do it, is still like this person. If this thing is something that's known in the deen, that's known that this is from the deen, and he says, such as like if he says that like homosexuality, he says this is permissible for anyone to do whatever they want. This is their body, they do what they want. Like this is like we as Muslims, we say that Allah is the one who decides what we do with our bodies, and also He's the one who judges us according to that. And Allah has said that this is haram, so we say that this is haram. And someone who says otherwise, then they say that this is permissible. Even if he doesn't do it, it's still something that takes him outside of Islam. So this is istihlal. And so the author from At-Tahawiyah, when he says ma lam yastahil, this is a meaning that is good, but it also, like, if you understood, like if you looked into the meaning, there's problems that have been taken from what he said, that where some people would say if someone does kufr but he didn't say that it was permissible, then he's no longer a kafir, and then they'll use his saying here that this is from al-Sunnah. But the better is to say as long as he didn't do something that destroys Iman, and from that is istihlal, which is making something permissible that is known to be haram in the deen. And so the next thing that the author here, he says, is وأهل الكبائر تنالهم الشفاعة وهم داخلون تحت المشيئة وقد يعفو الله عنهم لتوحيدهم ولحسنات ماحية أو مصائب مكفرة ونحوها وكل ذلك محض فضله تعالى. And so he says here that the major sinners, the people that do these major sins, are reached by the shafa'ah. So like we know that there's multiple types of shafa'ah on the Day of Judgment, and of these types of shafa'ah is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he'll intercede for the people that did major sins, so that Allah will free them from the hellfire. And so this is something, the major sinners are people that are reached by the shafa'ah. They're not someone who's cut off from the shafa'ah, and there's no hope for them once they reach the hellfire and whatnot, and there's no hope for them to be forgiven for this, but rather they are someone that it's available for them to be for like this shafa'ah, which is like an intercession. It's available for them to be they can be interceded for, and then they could be forgiven for this thing because of Allah, and they are under Allah's will. And when this taht al-mashi'ah is the form which means if Allah wills, He can punish them according to His justice, or forgive him according to or forgive these people according to His grace. And so this is what he means by under Allah's will. He can either do this or this, and that of course Allah will never punish someone unjustly, and we know that. But if Allah punishes someone, then this is according to His justice, and if He forgives, this is according to His mercy. And he may forgive them because of their tawheed, and this is a way that maybe Allah forgives a person just because of the tawheed that this person has, that they made Allah the only one that they worship, or good deeds that erase bad ones. And this is another way that Allah uses, and Allah says, Inna al-hasanati yudhimna sayyi'at, that the hasanat, they get rid of the sayyi'at, which are the good deeds. They get rid of the bad deeds. So if somebody, and also the Prophet ﷺ said, وَأَتْبَعِ السَّيِّئَةَ حَسَنَةً تَمْحُوهَا, that the Prophet ﷺ said to atba', which is to follow up every bad action. If you do a bad action, follow it up with a good one, and then it will get rid of that. And so this is one of the ways that, of course, when we do good deeds, this is a way for us to get rid of the bad deeds that we did previously. And of course, the good deeds are 10 times. We get 10 times the reward for a good deed. And also the bad deed is just, it's according to itself. It's not multiplied at all. And so this is of the beauties of Islam, that the good deeds erase bad deeds. So if we were to do good deeds, then Allah could use this to erase the bad deeds. And also, he says, by another means of forgiveness is by calamities that are an expiation. And also this comes in a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ says that there's not a believer that befalls him a calamity, even to the point where it's like a prick from like a thorn that befalls him, except that it is an expiation for something that he's done. And when he is when he's patient in this, it's something that will raise his ranks in Jannah. And so this is a way that if somebody falls they're beset with calamities, maybe it's poor health, maybe it's maybe they got in like some type of accident, or they had someone in the family that passed away and they had a hardship that came to them. If they're patient with this is a way that they're getting their sins paid for. And of course, this is of the benefits if Allah gives this person like a calamity in this life, then this is like a benefit for him, as opposed to saving this calamity for the afterlife. And the people who their calamities are saved for the afterlife, this is a sign that Allah does not want good for this person, and that He's leaving the punishment for the afterlife, which of course is much harder than for someone to see it in this life. And also, like the punishments, they come from the things that we've done. Like if we do evil deeds, then this is something that comes and befalls us. Like the punishments in this life, we'll see that comes from what we've done. And this also can be, but if we see other people that have like certain calamities in their life, we don't necessarily view this as their evil person, and that Allah is paying them back for their sins. And we don't necessarily have this bad thoughts about them. We could also see that this is of the other type, which is raising their ranks in Jannah. When we look at other people and to have the good thoughts, that this is possibly a way that Allah is using this calamity that befell this other person to raise his ranks. And so, like, of course, to always have a good thoughts about other Muslims is very important. And so so this is either by calamities that are means of expiation, which is of the ways that are forgiveness is like attained, or something like that. And there's many other ways that forgiveness can be attained. And this is all the pure favor of Allah. And this is, of course, the favor of Allah, that Allah forgives from people, and also has and decrees that they will do good actions, and that this person will choose to do these different actions that he does. He'll choose that this person stands up in the night and prays, and this person learns Quran, and this person he's very careful of making sure all of his prayers are prayed on time. These are all things that is of the favor of Allah that someone gives someone. And so, of course, if somebody sees these good things, as the Prophet ﷺ said, if he sees something good, فَلْيَحْمَدِ اللَّهِ, then he should praise Allah and thank Allah for that goodness that he sees, because this is from the benefit that Allah has given him. and is from the favor of Allah, that is something that Allah does out of His favor. It is not something that is necessarily that Allah is forced to do, or something is forcing Allah to do this. And also the next thing that the author he says here is, when man uqiba bi dhanbihi min ahli al-kaba'iri fa ila amadin wa fi an-nari la yukhallad. And he says, and whoever is punished because of his sin from the major sinners, then this is for an allotted time, and they don't eternally abide in the fire. And this, as we talked about, this person has the foundation of iman. This is something that saves them from an eternity in the hellfire, from like an eternal abode in the hellfire. And so like this person, whoever is punished, then he's only punished according to the actions that he did. And then after he's done the time, then he is taken out of the hellfire, as it comes in a hadith, and then he's taken to Jannah after that. If he's a believer, then he's taken into Jannah after that, and then he receives his eternity as in Jannah if he died as a believer. And so, he says here, then this is for an allotted time, and they don't eternally abide in the fire. And these are quite a few issues that the author here brought up, and these are very important for people to understand, because this is of the first types of like deviance that came into Islam, is where people would try to take other people outside of Islam. And some of this had to do with political like underlines, like where people were not politically satisfied with the decision of the Khalifa, and so if they didn't like his politics, then they took him outside of Islam, And so of course there's other factors here in the Khawarij, of like the original Khawarij of the time of the Sahaba that came up at that time. They were not someone who were like, they weren't like built upon a foundation of like knowledge, and that this was like a shubha that was very, very powerful against them, but rather it's something that was kind of politically influenced. And yes, they had certain shubhat. They had like shubhat where they had certain thoughts that this was not permissible, and the person who does this is a kafir. And so I believe Ibn Abbas, he went to them, and and at the command of Ali, he went to them to clear up these shubhat, and he basically had a debate with them and asked them, what is your issue? And then he responded to each one of their issues, and many of them left the deviance that they were upon, and they came back to al-Sunnah. And because this was something that it was not something that was a very, very strong like a madhab or a school of thought, but rather it's something kind of influenced by certain misconceptions here and there, and then kind of put together in that. And so this is something to be understood. And some of the scholars later on, they'll talk about the Khawarij as a certain school of thought, but then the problem is the Khawarij that are the original Khawarij don't fit the school of thought that is then talked about later. And so this is something to be mindful of. And the description I gave before is one that my sheikh pretty much he talks about, and he says that basically this is a better description than saying it's someone who basically makes someone a disbeliever by doing a kabira. And so this is what a lot of people say, that the Khawarij is somebody who says someone is a disbeliever because he does a kabira, which he does a major sin. But the better is to say that the Khawarij, or a Khariji is one of them. This is a person who takes someone outside of Islam by doing something that doesn't take him outside of Islam, without a decent evidence to take him out. And then on top of that, he also makes his blood permissible to, of course, someone who is a Muslim. And if they leave Islam, then there's a penalty of the death penalty that is ascribed, of course, in the correct circumstances, when there's actual people that are in charge that can do this in a right way. But there is a penalty that is ascribed. So a lot of times when somebody takes someone outside of Islam, there's also there's a death threat that is attached to that, or it's a way that someone can use to get someone to get killed. And so they would say that this person, he left Islam from that. So of course, because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever leaves or changes his deen, then he should be killed. And so, of course, like if this is connected with that, then the people they would take someone outside of Islam so that they can have so that they can kill him and then take his wealth or take his power position and whatnot. So, of course, this is a serious issue for someone to call someone out, say that this person is no longer a Muslim. And, of course, the Prophet ﷺ, he talks about that like cursing or insulting a Muslim is fisk, which is of that type of like severe disobedience here. And he also says, and like in calling him a kafir is like killing him. And so, of course, like someone who calls someone a disbeliever, this is as if this person gets the same sin as if he had killed this person. So it's very important to be careful about ever calling somebody something without clear evidence from the Quran and Sunnah that this person has gone against. And of course, this is best left to the people of knowledge. And of course, someone without knowledge should never be giving out these things. Should never be doing any takfir unless it's something that's like super clear, like without a shadow of a doubt. And so the next chapter that the author he goes into, he talks about in general the rulings of the people of the Qibla. And so we'll go through some of these, and then inshallah we'll see what we can accomplish from it. And so the author here, he says al-mabhathu as-sadisu al-hukmu ala ahli al-qibla, and he says وَمَنْ صَلَّى إِلَى الْقِبْلَةِ فَهُوَ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْمِلَّةِ, and he says, and whoever prays towards the Qibla of these people, as I mentioned before, this very general form of Islam, then he is from the people of this religion. And yusalla wara'ahu wa alayhi. He is prayed behind, meaning like in a congregation, like if he's the imam, you pray behind him. And prayed over and after his death, like meaning after his death, like for janazah, as a Muslim, he has the ruling of Islam upon him, and we pray behind him. And like if he was a leader, then we pray behind him. And if he was someone who passed away, we'd pray the janazah on him. And then he also says here, وَيُحْكَمُ لَهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ فِي الظَّاهِرِ وَاللَّهُ يَتَوَلَّى السَّرَائِرِ. And so he says here that he is given the ruling of Islam in regards to the exterior. In regards to us and what we act upon, he is a Muslim. And Allah, he takes care of the secrets of a person's heart. And this, of course, like there could be like munafiqeen, like the people who are people that are hypocrites and want that they don't really believe. And so Allah takes care of this. If this person is a munafiq, Allah will judge them according to that in the Day of Judgment, and this person will be in the hellfire forever, eternity, in the deepest depths of the hellfire. And so this is something, though, that we, in general, we act according to the apparent, like the apparent thing. This person is a Muslim. This person, either, of course, there's two ways that someone becomes a Muslim, either by saying the Shahadatain, like declaring it with the Shahada, or they're born to a Muslim, they're born to a Muslim mother or father, like whether it's one or both. And so, like, if they're born to someone, one of their parents is a Muslim, then they're a Muslim. And so if they have this, then they're a Muslim until clear evidence comes to prove them otherwise. And we deal with them as they're Muslim unless clear evidence comes that shows that they are no longer a Muslim. And this is important because there have been groups that have come up in some recent times that have questioned the Islam of people, or questioned the Islam of like communities in general, or like whole nations in general. And he'll talk about in regards to this, Allah will take care of what is on the inside of somebody. If somebody in reality they believe kufr and they hold this, and then Allah will deal with them accordingly. But when it comes to us, we don't take this as a means to say that this person is no longer a Muslim, or we're ambivalent, or we don't want to say that they're a Muslim or not. And so we treat them according to the exterior, like what is apparent. We treat them according to the apparent, and Allah will take care of what is secret. And this is a very key point of al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah. And the next thing he says here, وَمَنْ ظَاهِرُهُ الْإِسْلَامِ فَاخْتِبَارُ حَالِهِ أَوْ تَوَقُّفْ فِي إِسْلَامِهِ بِدْعَةٌ. And he says, whoever is outwardly shown as Muslim, like this person is apparently a Muslim, like as I mentioned, he either said the Shahadatain, or he prays. And this is another way that someone knows if they see him praying or giving the adhan or something that is known for the Muslims. If he's outwardly a Muslim, then testing him in it or refusing to come to a ruling, this is called tawakkuf, which is like he doesn't say that he's a Muslim, he doesn't say he's not a Muslim. He's not going to say it. He's waiting about this person. He's unsure about his Islam or his ruling as a Muslim. Then coming and like refusing to come to a ruling about its status as a Muslim or not is bid'ah. So either this was something that happened with a group that is called Qutbiyun, and they basically they basically said we will stop because they saw that a lot of like the group or like a mass majority of the Muslims were on a very severe type of misguidance, and that they were running towards liberalism, and they were not following what was given to us from the Quran, the Sunnah, and they were not applying, or they were a lot of the Muslims were falling into serious problems in their iman. So what happened was that they basically said, when it comes to the Muslim community, we need to stop and give everyone a little test. And so either they would give them a test, and in the test, they basically ask, what is the ruling of prescribing something in the Sharia, or like prescribing something in like the society, as in such as like Sharia in like a linguistic sense. It doesn't just mean like the religion. It actually goes into like legislation in general. Like you have a legislation for a government, and Sharia encompasses that. This is a type of Sharia. So they would ask this person, what is the prescription of someone who legislates with other than what Allah has revealed? Like, what is the ruling of this? And so they would test him first with this. They'd say, what is the ruling of someone who legislates with other than what Allah has given? This was their first test. If he passes this, he says, oh, this is kufr. And he's like, okay, good. Then he passed this test. Then he asked him another one. And then he would ask him, what is the ruling of the person who he slaughters to other than Allah? And they basically had this because there was a lot of like Sufis that would make dhabh, which is slaughtering for their dead Sufi sheikhs, and they would promise that they would make a slaughtering for them and whatnot. And dhabh is something that's for Allah alone, and this is a type of kufr. But they would ask them about this, and even while these things in general, they're like, yes, this is something that is right, and this is something that is right. Is this ikhtibar, or this test for every individual? Is this right? No. But they would ask him, what is the ruling of slaughtering for other than Allah? And if he passed, he says, okay, check. All right, this is good. And then he asks them, he would wait until he gives him this test with these major issues. Also about like al-wala wal-bara. Like he'll wait about this person's Islam until he asks them certain questions about do you love the Muslims over the non-Muslims, and are you free from everything that is worshipped other than Allah? And they'll give him like certain like ikhtibar in this. And if this person passed, then they'd say, okay, he's Muslim. All right, good, he's Muslim. And if he didn't pass, then they would stop with this person. And then they also had a kind of a way that they would look at all of the government in general, all of the government that legislated with other than Allah, like prescribed with other than the Sharia. If they had legislation that went against the Sharia, or they're legislating with other than that, then they basically said the whole government is all kuffar. And so they'd say the whole government is all kuffar, and then they all need to be fought, of course. That's what they basically think. And then whoever is not from the government, or they're not like from the people that are involved in the government, then we stop and we test them. And we test to make sure, are you with us in the Aqeedah? Is this proper or not? And if you're proper, then you're Muslim. If you're not, then there's an issue. Then he doesn't affirm the Islam for this person. Of course, this whole thing is a new thing in the religion. This is something that is bid'ah, and so like having this ikhtibar with people, like in general, this is something that is not prescribed for for us to make a test for people to really test their Islam. Are you really Muslim or not? You know, like if this person is apparently Muslim, we leave them as that, and Allah will deal with the rest. Of course, we can teach them, and this is not the issue. But to give them like this test before we affirm their Islam, this is the issue that this type of bid'ah came in, and they're known as like the Qutbiyun, and they basically there's good parts of the original, like Sayyid al-Qutb. There's good things about like what he called towards, like worshiping Allah alone. And he called towards Tawheed in a general sense. And also he went against like the times that he was in. Many of the people fell into serious issues in the deen, and he was calling them back to that. And he pointed to that these are things of jahiliyyah, like these are things of ignorance, the times of ignorance that people were falling into. And some of his words, and also the way that he was dealt with the government and whatnot, put him and some of the people that followed him and like from his family, they put them into like a very severe stance, where some of them ended up doing like takfir, like they ended up calling the vast majority of Muslims all kuffar, and they said they were like the only Muslims left. And of course this is a type of misguidance and a misunderstanding. And the people, there's still like groups of this in like pockets here and there, and a lot of some of like the terrorist organizations and whatnot, they will like this is such as like there's called like ISIS and whatnot. They will fall into these categories where they have this essence where they came from these people, where they'd question people's Islam first and foremost, or they would even go to a greater extreme where until it was proved to them without a shadow of a doubt that this person was a Muslim, like according to their terms, after they fix their test, or they are no longer involved in the government, because the government is something that is they basically make all of the government out to be kuffar, and so this creates serious issues, and then they end up being little pockets, and they think that they're the only Muslims on the planet. And this is, of course, it's something that a lot of them, they have no like real basis in knowledge for this, but it is a mindset that, and like a kind of an ideology that has spread, and we find it within them in particular, like these groups, and there will be other groups out there that will kind of fall into some of the issues that they fell into as well. And so this is important, though, that we understand that people are Muslims, and we don't need to test them for them to be Muslims. Of course, if someone's in there's some things like for if someone is trying to make sure that there's no like spies in his area, then like sometimes maybe if someone uses a test to make sure that there's no spies for for that like safety purpose, then this is something like that's understandable. Or before, like if you see something that's wrong, then to make sure that you do inkar properly, you need to make sure that this person understands didn't have an excuse to do this thing. Like say if you're gonna do inkar on something and you're gonna call him out on an issue, you need to make sure that there was an actual reason for like that he didn't have a valid reason to do this thing beforehand. So having a little test to see do you know that this is wrong, or what's this, then that is something that is okay in these times. But just in general, to stop everyone's Islam from being affirmed until you have this test, this is something that is bid'ah, and it's something that's a newly invented matter in the deen that has no basis in it, and it's clear misguidance. And so the next thing that the author here, he says, and he's going to go into, is that he says here, وَلَا نُنَزِّلُ أَحَدًا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْقِبْلَةِ جَنَّةً وَلَا نَارًا إِلَّا بِدَلِيلٍ شَرْعِيٍّ. And so he says, and we don't describe any individual from the people of the Qibla, of course this general term, to Jannah or to the hellfire. And so except with evidence from the religion. And so it's very important that we understand this key fact, is that we don't say that someone, because yes, we understand all Muslims in general, we have a basic principle. All Muslims go to Jannah, and all kuffar go to the hellfire. This is a general prescription. But when it comes to individuals, we leave the equation for Allah to work it out. So 2 + 2 = for, and so if this person was a Muslim and he died upon Islam, then he goes to Jannah, and this is the equation. But when it comes to individuals and saying this person's in Jannah, this person's in Jannah, we don't do this for individuals unless there's a specific evidence for this person. And the same thing with the hellfire. We don't do this for the hellfire. We don't say so and so's in the hellfire, so and so's in the hellfire, but rather we say this person was a kafir, and all kuffar, they go to the hellfire. And so you can do the math, but and of course the kuffar that we say in general, the people that there's no evidence of Islam, then this person is a kafir. And of course, if he said things of kufr, we assume that he's a kafir until proven otherwise. And so this is how we deal. We deal with the apparent, what is apparent. And then Allah, of course, knows if this person said the shahadatain before he passed away, then this is okay. This is a Muslim with Allah, but as far as we're concerned, this person is a kafir. He doesn't get buried with the Muslims, and he's treated according to the kuffar, as they are treated in regards to legislation and whatnot. But we don't have this kind of hope. I think when certain people that loved certain celebrities and whatnot, sometimes these people would pass away and they would say, oh, I think he was probably a Muslim, and you're there's no probably about this. This person was a kafir their whole life, and there's no proof that they became Muslim, so we treat them as a kafir when they die. And this is the way that when we deal with these issues, we deal upon the dhahir. Of course, we don't say this person is in the hellfire, but we say this person is a kafir, and all kuffar are in the hellfire. So, such as Queen Elizabeth. Some people are talking about, oh, maybe she had an excuse or something and whatnot. We don't say that she's from the hellfire, but we say that she was a kafir, and all kuffar go to the hellfire. And so, kafira. And so, of course, Allah knows if this person ever became a Muslim and we didn't know about it, Allah would know. And this is why we don't say, as a 100% sure, so-and-so is in the hellfire, or so-and-so is in Jannah, unless there's a evidence from the Sharia that points to this. Such as the Prophet ﷺ testified for many of the Sahaba that these people are from the people of Jannah, and that these are. And so if we have Abu Bakr and Omar, and also Uthman, and there's other of the Sahabi, of the Sahaba that are testified by the Prophet ﷺ that these people are of the people of Jannah, like the people of Badr, the people that fought in the battle of Badr, and these people that gave the pledge of allegiance under the tree, then this was something that Allah spoke for them, and we have evidence to see that these are people, without a doubt, these individuals are the people of Jannah. But in general, we say if this person was a Muslim, he died upon Islam, then he goes to Jannah, and this is in general. But we don't say that this individual so and so is of the people of Jannah without clear evidence. And of he'll talk about it at the end. But of course, the children of the believers, these are people that are clearly in Jannah. This is because we have clear evidence for this, and so we can say that the children of believers, if they die, they're without a doubt going to be their abode is in Jannah. And this is a very important key principle, that we don't say individuals are in Jannah and individuals are in the hellfire, but rather we say this person is this, and all of this goes to the, we would say in general, if this person was a Muslim, this person's a Muslim. If he died upon Islam, then he goes to Jannah. All Muslims go to Jannah. But we don't say this person is in Jannah. We don't do the end of the equation. And the same thing with the kuffar. We say this person was a kafir, and all kuffar go to the hellfire, and they stay there eternally. And we deal with them according to that way. And of course, Allah knows if this person gave shahada on his deathbed or not, or if there was some other circumstance in there. But this is something in general, we act upon the appearance, and we don't have this kind of hopeful love for celebrity kuffar, that people, they think that this person was a good person, so he probably was a Muslim. No, we deal with them according to what came, and Allah will deal with him according to His perfect knowledge. And we don't say that this person is from the hellfire, or from Jannah until there's clear evidence from the Quran and Sunnah that comes to us for that. And so the next thing that he says in regards to that, he says, وَنَرْجُو لِلْمُحْسِنِ وَنُبَشِّرُهُ وَلَا نُؤَمِّنُهُ وَنَخَافُ عَلَى الْمُسِيءِ وَلَا نُقَنِّطُهُ. And so he says here that we, the end of this thing, is he says, and we hope for the good person, like for the muhsin, which is a person that has ihsan. So when we see someone that is a very someone who's very good about worshiping Allah and doing all His what is required and going the extra mile, we hope for him. We hope that this person of the people of Jannah, and we hope for that, and we give good tidings to him without assurance. So we give him good tidings. Like if we see something good, we say this is probably a sign that Allah, this is like a sign that maybe Allah loves you. Of course, like to say Allah loves someone individually, we shouldn't do this. But to say that this is a sign that Allah loves you, and this is okay. Like if we have like a certain text and whatnot, or that Allah wants good for you, this is a sign that Allah wants good for you. If He guided you to Islam, this is a sign that Allah wants good for you. And so then so we can give them good news or good tidings in this sense, but we don't go to an extent where we make this person he says وَلَا نُؤَمِّنُهُ, and that we don't give him that assurance. It's not like we give him that stamp of approval. You're set, you're going to go to heaven, but we say that this is something we hope for you and whatnot. And then at the other side, for someone who's a sinner and he's falling into these things, we fear for him. And like this is something we fear for the person who is sinning, or for the person that is in a serious state, like maybe he's in doing a lot of serious issues, and we fear for them. But we also, at the same time, when we deal with him, we don't send him into despair, because it's very important that we never send someone into despair. Like say someone is struggling with a certain sin, he can't leave it. And of course, like this is for Muslims, but this person is struggling with the sin, he doesn't leave it. We don't say you're done for, Allah will never forgive you and whatnot. Of course, this is a serious issue. To say Allah will never forgive someone, this is not permissible in any state. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that there was two people from people that were like kind of like friends or brothers from the nations that came before. And one of them was a very like strong worshiper. He worshipped Allah a lot, and he was constantly striving to worship Allah and striving to increase his ibadah. And the other one was someone who kept falling into sins over and over again. And so one of the times while this person was very frustrated with his brother that kept falling into sins, he told him, he said, "Wallahi, Allah will never forgive you." He basically swore that Allah would never forgive him. And then Allah said in response to this, "Who is this person that swears by me and says that I won't forgive him? I've forgiven this person, and I've destroyed your all of your good works. I've destroyed it, and I've forgiven this person." Of course, because he's talking about Allah without knowledge. This is a serious affair, and he's saying that Allah would never forgive this person, but Allah loves to forgive. So we never say this about someone. We can have like fear for someone that we can fear for, like if they keep going down this road, it's a bad road, and that they're subject to a lot of punishment if Allah doesn't forgive them. But at the same time, we never cut off that road of repentance for them. And this is also in another hadith that the Prophet ﷺ talks about, that there was a man that was from like the previous nations, and he had killed 99 people, and then he wanted to make tawbah. And so he's a murderer, killed 99 people, he wanted to make tawbah. And so he looked around on the earth for who is the most knowledgeable person, and what do I do? I want to make repentance and to Allah, and see if Allah will forgive me. And so he found like a monk, that like a worshiping monk. And so he found this monk, and he asked him about this, and the monk told him, he said, "Allah will never forgive you." And so he killed the monk. He finished it off. It was 100 now. And then he wanted to make repentance still after that. And then he asked for the most knowledgeable person. And he found an actual, like a scholar. And the scholar told him that this place that you're in is a very bad place, and you're surrounded with bad people. And you need to go to this other town, because in it there are people that are worshiping Allah properly, and you'll get a good you'll have a good influence around you. So you need to move from your land to these people, and so to make your tawbah. And so he left to go to make that repentance, and he left on the road to go there. And while he was on the road, the Prophet ﷺ says that he died in the road on the way there, and the angels of death, they came to him, and there's the angels of forgiveness and the angels of torment that came to him to take him, and then they came together on him. And the angels of torment were saying that this person was an evil person, and he needs to be taken as for what he did. And then the angels of rahmah, or of like mercy, they were wanting to take him because of course he's going to make tawbah. And so then a messenger of the angels came to them and told them to measure the distance between this land and this land. And Allah, in one of the narrations, Allah brought the other land closer to the land that he was going towards. If this land was closer, then he goes with the angels of Rahmah. And Allah shortened the distance here for him, and so he was taken by the angels of Rahmah. Of course, this is of the beautiful hadiths that talks about, of course, like we should never be of that type of people that throws someone into despair. And of course, this is not a place of wisdom, and it's not for us to ever say that Allah will forgive, it's not for us to say that Allah won't forgive somebody just because they've done what seems to us to be very, very serious, as a serious matter, because Allah is forgiving and loves to forgive, and we should never ever put ourselves into a position of trying to judge what Allah is going to do in this. And this is, of course, talking about Allah without any knowledge, and that is of the major sins that shaitan, he calls for people to do. And this is the way that he got this. He got like that brother of that person that was a very hard worshiper. He basically got to destroy all of his work by getting him to say just one thing, that is saying, Wallahi, Allah will never forgive you for that. And of course, this is a serious thing that no person should ever say these words to another brother, and that. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Inshallah, I'll stop here for today, and we'll pick back up in the next part of this chapter, and inshallah we will continue this in the next class. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب وأمرت لأعدل بينكم الله ربنا وربكم لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم لا حجة بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير.